Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo, and I am here for a brand new show. Sort of. This is going to be our Tuesday slot for a little while, and I'm looking forward to it. We are trading one spiritually focused anime with a male point of view character who has a significantly different bond to the spirit world of sorts than most other people, and should be episodic, atmospheric, and a whole lot of fun by trading Natsume Yuujinchou for Mushishi. Full disclosure, I have seen some of Mushishi. I started watching it, it was a long fucking time ago. It was like right when I got first into anime, because Mushishi pops up on a lot of recommendation lists. People are like, if you want shonen, watch this. If you want atmosphere, watch this. And Mushishi comes up in those conversations. So I watched some of it. I don't remember how much of it I watched. I don't remember anything of it except for some like mild vibes, which were good vibes. I don't remember why I stopped watching it. And the only thing that I know kind of for certain is that I definitely didn't get past the first core. So we've got a whole bunch of new stuff for me to get to. I'm probably going to find the first couple of episodes familiar, and that's fine by me and hopefully fine with you too. This is going to be our Tuesday show for a little bit. There will be new episodes up on Patreon a week before they go up on YouTube. I think that's just about it. We're going to watch the show. We're going to talk about it. Yeah? Yeah. Let's watch some Mushishi. Have a nice chill out Tuesday. Cool. I've got episode 1 of Mushishi up and ready to go. I downloaded the Neo Havoc version from Nya. I assume that it and there are a couple of other versions that are quite similar. And I'm probably going to watch it all in dub until people yell at me for that. And if enough people yell at me, maybe I'll switch. I'm sorry, I'm going to watch it in sub. Probably going to watch it in sub unless people yell at me for that. And then maybe we'll switch to dub, but we're probably going to watch it in sub because it's probably better. Cool. This comes out of Studio Artland. I looked up the director and his name just escaped my mind. The thing that I found interesting about him is that he is also the director of my single favorite comedy anime of all time, which is Detroit Metal City, 10-minute short episode anime that's just wonderful. I love it I love it to pieces. And he's also directed a whole bunch of Mushishi. Cool. Good stuff. Let's watch the show. I've got that episode 1 up and ready to go. It's sitting at 0 seconds. There will be 2 versions of the reaction. You can find a picture-in-picture version with the video up there, linked in the description down there, and a timer-based version up on YouTube. If you would like to sync up your own copy of the episode with the timer-based version, you are more than welcome to do so. It is why it's there. Just get your copy of the episode ready to go at 0 seconds, because the beep beep timer to count you down will be coming at you. It'll go boop, 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 beep, and red, yellow, yellow, green on the green light, and the beep is when the frame starts playing on my screen, and I'll sync all of that up in post-production, and that's what you'll have. Cool? Cool. And then we'll talk about it afterward. Let's watch episode 1. Beep beep timer. Mushi. Mm-hmm. Sweet. Okay, so music is going to be a thing here because we're talking about atmosphere, right? I remember this song. I like this song a lot. I forgot how much I like this song. Big Simon and Garfunkel vibes, of course. Again, atmosphere. Misty morning, mountains and forests. I bet it's our white-haired boy. Oh yeah. The Green Seat. Episode 1. Hmm. Oh. Oh, that's... Whoa. Not safe. Not safe. The little perfect camera shakes for his footfalls. Oh, that's so good. Oh, the background art. Okay. Oh, hi. That's weird. Definitely not a bird. Hi. Uh-huh. At least one of them. The other one's kind of covered. So people call to him. Or does he just show up? Oh. That's a crazy power, my man. So he keeps his hand bound? Okay. Got it. Too late. Too late. You're already being clocked. Dude, this kid's got it. How old is he? 13? 15? People wouldn't. Yeah. His grandmother has protected him. Yeah. It's all about timing. Them's mushi. So most people can't see them. Got it. Why? Seems beautiful to me. So we meet someone who doesn't understand the core phenomenon, and then we can have him explain everything. I'm wondering when we'll get his name. I know his name, but I'm wondering how long it'll take. This is such a great way of doing exposition. Mushi are the thumb. Hmm. Further. Right. They're pure, like spirit. Okay. Okay. And night falls. Oh, yeah, near impossible. Or to describe a color that can't be seen. Hmm. Can't understand. So are we here to understand or to remove his gift or? Hmm. Hmm. Oh, I just saw a little ghosty. Oh, yeah. What's that? Hi. Like insects? Oh, I don't think so. Oh. Oh. Your house. Okay. Yeah. Or is she actually a ghost? So, yes. Ooh. Smarter than I am. How? Oh, okay. Life returns to life. The cup was from there. Okay. Why can you then? Hmm. Hmm. Choice is key. Hmm. Uh-huh. This guy. Green. Oh. That's pretty cool. Whoa. Whoa. All right, that's great. That's really cool. Okay. Whoosh. Oh man. Why does she take the form of herself as a child? Is it because of self-image? I wonder. Am I gonna fucking explode? What's gonna happen if I do that? Whoa. Oh. She could see them too. Sometimes. Those are really weird. Whoa. Procession to the banquet? The shifting cloaks are them, aren't they? That's really interesting. Um, this is after her death, right? Becoming Mushi. Huh. So that's why it's so vibrant here. Okay, this is not after her death. Oh no. Oh wow. In the cup? So it wasn't completed, huh? And she was split then. Whoa. And away we go. What's in the box? What's in the box? I actually assume it's just his shit, his stuff. Her. Got it. Oh, there we go. Powerful artifact obtained. His power is gone? I wonder. But that's the point, isn't it? The point is to make me wonder, isn't it? Ooh, successful episode 1. I know I've seen this episode before, but I know also that I don't remember anything about it. So, good. Good. I don't know how the previews work, if at all. They don't! Excellent. The previews are nothing. They just tell us the episode title, which is fantastic. Light of the Eyelid. So again, something with sight, but that would probably be a constant theme. Okay, cool. Where do we begin? Because the main portion of the conversation that I want to have about this episode is centered around the topic of atmosphere. Um, but I think we should address the more straightforward things about the episode first. So, first thing that comes to mind for me is that if this were a different kind of show, Ginkgo would take the boy with him and he would become his apprentice, and then we would have that kind of a point of view story. This is not that kind of a show. This is a show that's kind of like the original Kino no Tabi, where Ginkgo journeys from place to place and discovers things, experiences things, solves problems in some way or another, and the lessons are often going to be left to us to interpret. That makes it maybe a different kind of show in some cases than Natsume, which is maybe sometimes a little bit more straightforward with its lessons. Instead of doing that, we're trying to evoke. We're trying to create a feeling, create a mood, and create an atmosphere. So the first thing that I want to say about this episode before we jump into talking about atmosphere, because that's where we're going to end up with this conversation, regardless of how I start, is I want to say that for a first episode, which is based on the first chapter of the manga that is the same thing, it's pretty freaking brilliant. Our dude shows up, there is one character who doesn't understand what he can see, and our dude gets to explain it. Mushi are the core of life, the essence of life. They're spirits to an extent, but not spirits out of any particular tradition, and that lets the author write any traditional stories and non-traditional stories using them to create an entirely new spiritual world. That's really cool. It's really cool. The choice to have a character who doesn't understand anything, and then have our more knowledgeable character explain it to him gives us all the opportunity that we need to do exposition in character without it feeling weird or fake, or characters telling other characters things that they should already know. Not everybody in the world can see Mushi, and even those who can don't always understand it. They think maybe there's something wrong with them or they're crazy, but they're not. They're real. They're just past our periphery, outside of our perceptions, and that makes them really interesting. The spiritual elements of sentient Mushi and light flowing through the world and the idea that all life is connected all create this very nature is our basis, our center, our core sort of a feeling. And Ginkgo is a character who works in between the lines of humanity and nature, right? Immediately we have someone, a child who is an outcast of sorts by his own choice and by his grandmother's own choice, but there's this thing where he's a man living in a house out in perfect verdant nature, and there's this weird balance thing going on, and that tells us immediately that that's going to be the core of the thing. I've talked a bit about der Boeken Framed Ink, because it's got some really great things to say. And one of the great things that it has to say is about first frames. And this isn't something that necessarily always holds true every time, no matter what. But let me find the segment on it. Establishing shots is the chapter, and these are the first examples. The basic gist of this chapter, and I won't spoil the whole book for you because I want you to go out and buy a copy of it and read it. It's not my book. I don't get paid for this. I'm just telling you because this book is super helpful for understanding storytelling media. The general gist of that chapter is that the first thing that we see in a piece of media, whether it's a graphic novel, which is what Marcos Mato Mestre really goes for and makes himself, and they're really cool, or a piece of animation or a manga, the very first frames are important. They matter. They tell us what the story is about. This is our first real frame in Mushishi, and our story is about nature. Once we move along a little bit farther, it's nature and this guy in it, right? Okay. That's cool. It's just smart composition and smart storytelling visually. Either whether that's directly ripped from the manga and that's how the manga starts, or if it's new to the anime, doesn't really matter to me. It just means that there's good stuff going on and there are people thinking about how they're going to compose their shots, which is utterly crucial if we have such an atmosphere-driven show like Mushishi. Now, let's talk about atmosphere because it's a word that gets thrown around a lot, and I think that a lot of us know what we feel like it means, but we don't know how it's created. I don't know how it's created necessarily, and a big part of why I'm watching Mushishi is because it is hailed as such an atmosphere-driven show. The vibe of the thing, the feel of it, the intangibles are what make it really interesting and really enjoyable. So, what is atmosphere? I wrote a few notes down as we were going through as they occurred, and this is by no means complete, and we're going to keep adding things to this list and adding ways of making these things function for our purposes in creating atmosphere as we go along in the show. Atmosphere is music because sound is a whole world of experience that changes the way that we experience what we visually see, right? A forest at night with like crickets chirping is very different from a silent forest at night. One is fine. The other, something's moving through the forest and preventing the crickets from chirping, right? There's a huge difference in the emotional experience that we have of any given frame of a piece of animation based on what music is playing at the time that it occurs, or if there's no music, or if there's just like bombastic sound effects or something else. The audio landscape is a whole landscape, as is the visual landscape. So, music is a huge portion. For animation in particular, backgrounds are a huge portion of atmosphere. Framing is another one. I would call framing and composition are kind of the same thing. What is in the frame? How is it put together? What's the depth like? How is that put together? Are there foreground objects obscuring things? How is that put together? When we frame characters' faces, how do we shoot them? Do we shoot them with an ultra close-up from the side that's like just here, or just here, or just here? All of those create different feelings, different atmosphere, different emotion, which is entirely separate from what the characters are saying or what we feel like they're feeling, but it creates the feel that we're going for, right? Like when we watch an Akiyuki Shimbo show and we have these close-up, like on-eye close shots, or we've got these like close, like segmented off just the mouth giving us a grin or something. Those are different emotionally than if we had a full shot of the character doing that. Immensely different. And we do a whole lot of that stuff in this show. A lot of it is from the side, which is one of the things that I noticed that's really interesting. There's this feeling like our characters aren't quite looking at each other, like they're looking past each other and sort of involved in their own worlds, which I think it's got something to it that's right. I don't know. Okay, so framing and then timing. As we went through the episode, I mentioned that it's all about timing. I just said it offhand, and then I wrote it down. What I mean by that, we're going to have to investigate in a second, but let me make my last point as well. My final point for atmosphere for now would be associations. Again, this kind of fits in with the stuff I said about the audiovisual landscapes, but we associate certain things, certain visual elements with certain other things. Nature, for example, when it's green and verdant, the way that this forest that's depicted is like peace, right? It feels peaceful. That's an association that we have with what's on screen, makes us feel something. Houses, depending on how they're shot, can feel either peaceful or calm or oppressive or like cages, or they can feel structured and like sturdy. And we have a lot of shots of houses and shots inside their house and a lot of shots outside the house that are more flowing and full of natural shapes, leaves, trees, branches that are gnarled and twisted and curved that give us that green and verdant and peaceful atmosphere. Again, I can't explain what atmosphere is without even using the word atmosphere. Gosh, I'd be terrible in an English class. But that's my list. Music, background, framing, associations, and timing. Timing is the one that I want to focus on first, because most of them are pretty easy to understand what's going on here. Music does a lot. It's hugely emotionally driving as a force. The background art, of course, is going to be a huge element of how we feel about a given frame in a show or how they fit together. The framing itself is going to convey tons of things to us. It's going to convey character relationships and relationships of the characters to the world that they inhabit and relationships of the characters to their own internal worlds. And that's really powerful and really important. The associations are just what's on screen and how does that make us feel. But timing is glue. Timing is editing. Timing is directing. Timing is choice of how the storyboard falls together. And so I want to focus on timing because it's the most difficult for me to personally wrap my head around how it works the way that it works. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit. This opening sequence of demonstrating his abilities and demonstrating to us his own somewhat fear, but also curiosity at what the limitations of his abilities are. Really neat. I also want to mention that despite it being ultra simple line work, the animation of the moving ink structures that become living creatures feels so fluid and alive. It's because it shifts itself into these beautiful sweeping calligraphic curves and then takes off from the page. But that coupled with the way that the shadow emerges, and we use that trick again with the sake cup when it bursts from the paper upward and then gains shine and light on it, gains three-dimensionality and space and like actually becomes physical. It feels real. It feels right. Even though it's in an animated world, or perhaps because it's in an animated world, right? Super cool. But I want to get to our first conversation between our boyo here and Gin. And even before we get there... Hey! Oh, shit. It switched back to the English. Go away, English. I don't need you. I don't want you, English. We all Japanese today. Okay. Oh, then you're the Mushishi Ginko-san. Oh, we do get his name earlier. I'm an idiot. That's going to be a big theme here. I'm always an idiot. It's not going to change. But recognizing it and trying to learn more, it's great. Okay, you're the Mushishi Ginko-san. We just hold on this and grin. Cut to cup. Hold on it. Grin. Right? No grin, but you know what I mean. Love this shot. It's just gorgeous. Big color change, purple on the inside of the house. Cool. I guess it's not the first conversation that I wanted, it's the second one. So it's when we're out here as the sun is going down, we start to shift the color scheme of the background into purples and yellows and little bits of like this lightish yellow green up in the top right corner. The house, which was kind of vibrant the first time we see it, like it's got moss growing all over it. It's utterly verdant, right? And nature is almost intruding upon the home. Once we get into the night, it becomes just dark and gray, which is interesting. It creates even more contrast while we remove contrast from the frame, if that makes sense. Like most of the frame here is in shades of gray, except for the sky up top, and then that's balanced by the white and the light of their little lantern and their hair and their clothing and stuff. And then that's all offset by this tree, which has reflected light on it, and then balanced by this tree, which is darker. It's fucking smart. It's some fucking smart framing. It's really good. I'm realizing how good it is as we go back through it. But it's the way that we time things through the conversation. It creates the atmosphere. And again, the characters don't feel like they're looking at each other. Ginko looks at him far more than he looks at Ginko, right? He's looking at the boy. The boy is looking off to the side. But we're in this space, and it's all right? Like, we're looking from Ginko's eyeline now. That's cool. But it's here. This is the stuff that interests me. It's these cutaways. We hold this frame throughout that. We hold it longer. And then we cut. It holds too long, right? Intentionally. If we were cutting this for an American film, this would not be possible. ばあさんってのはなかなか賢明な人だったみたいだな。1, 2, いつも僕のこと考えてくれてた。Okay, so after the line is finished, when we were holding that, we still hold for another 4 seconds. That's a long time in a piece of animation to just hold a nature scene. What happens in those 4 seconds? It adds emphasis. It adds that pause, that atmosphere, and we're not showing anything else happening in that moment, so we just have time to let it sink in. There's a slow inevitability to the pacing of everything. It will happen. It will happen in its own time. And that tells us a lot about how the show works, right? Because it's not, we're going to make everything happen right now, which we've seen a lot of shows that do that. Just recently, we finished Kyousougiga. Kyousougiga is a show where shit fucking happens, and then it keeps happening, and then more shit happens, and it doesn't stop. This is not that kind of show. This is a show where few things happen, but they happen in important ways. And that one sequence where we hold that frame a little bit too long is precisely what indicates that to us. Okay, these close-up framings give us an emotional window directly into our characters, right? Depending on how they're framed and how animated their faces are. Now, the answer is both are contributing here. We see a lot of expression and emotion in the slight movements of his eyes, the shift of his body downward. But we also are just like, we're in it because of the way this whole shot is composed. And that's really cool. So, exposition sequences telling us more about this child and what he experiences. Then we get our full exposition on what mushi are and how they work with the rest of the living world. And we also create the sort of, I guess we create an association between these spirits and heart or soul or spirit itself, right? And that tells us a lot about the world, about Mushi, and about Ginkgo and his own perspective on Mushi, though most people may fear them or be standoffish with them. And we get some of that in our very introductory sequence where we're told that they are weird and they are hated by many and blah, 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 right? Okay. Another element of timing is the day-night cycle passes. Time is constant in this show. This is a real world with real day and night, and time really passes. A lot of anime don't give a fuck about what time is it, unless they're a school anime. It's like, it's school time. It's go to home time, right? It's club time, because clubs matter. This is grounded in a weird way, and also not grounded in another way, and that's very cool. All right. I love, this is kind of a side note, but I love the movement of the light as he walks through with his lantern held. The little candle moves the light through. Catch just that glimpse of the spirit walking by. Whoosh. I mean, this isn't hard, right? This is not a difficult sequence, but, I mean, difficult sequence to understand. We're given a tunnel into center frame, almost 2001 style, right? Perfectly aligns us so that we're looking right at that point. And then we have a character moving toward that point, so we focus upon it, and we're focused on him as he moves through, so that just barely in our peripheral, just like a millimeter angle or a couple degrees outside of where we're directly focused, that's where the spirit flashes by. So we catch it in the peripheral and it's gone as we see it. Ooh, that's so smart. It's so smart. It's so smart. We don't get an explanation for what this is. He doesn't go, let me pull out my mushi pin. This will do blah, 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 blah. He just pulls it out, goes up to her, and she eventually tells us, you have a mushi pin. Oh, that's a thing. It exists in the world and people know about it. And she seems a little bit afraid of it. That's really interesting. He's also totally nonchalant when dealing with creepy ghost girl, so we get to realize that Ginkgo's kind of a badass in his own slow, simple way. That's really neat, too. There's so much character, and it's like character and atmosphere on two sides of a scale, and they're just flitting through balance, right? They're just balancing each other out and shifting ever so slightly. And it's super cool. Okay. Then we can kind of dive into the meat of things, which is we discover what is really going on. There's this banquet, there's this sake cup. It's broken, we reforge it, and we bring a family back together and also separate them at the same time. That's so interesting. I do want to see the shot of the green turning into a thing, because it's So cool. It's already a three-dimensional-esque drawing, and that's what makes it so impressive to me, that it goes from a three-dimensional drawing to an actual physical object. I think that there's some fading going. Yeah, there is. Okay. You can see it around this line. I went back too far. Sorry. Around this line at the top corner, we can see where it fades through. Ding. So we've got the hard line of the new cup and the soft line of the watercolor on the page, and it fades through until it's gone. Shadow lengthens as it expands upward. The shadow tricks are super cool, and the highlights become more vibrant. The texture becomes more reflective. It becomes real. Not just a depiction of reality, but real. And by real, I mean real enough that in the context of the rest of the framing and the rest of the atmosphere and the rest of the way that everything is drawn, we believe it's a real cup in the world, even though it looks nothing like what a real cup would look like, right? It's kind of fucking kind of brain explodey, but it works. And then there's just some really cool fluid animation going on here. It's so nice. And I'm actually, I wasn't even thinking about that, but the fact that we have mushi and spirits and power like that gives us ample room for animators to do, instead of big bombastic Obari punch rar type of cuts, but to do really simple small things that are beautiful and fluid and sinuous. And yeah. And then we see the vision. Now, the vision has a completely different color scheme. It's sunset tones, purples, pinks, yellows, golds. And it's also, I think, as we're coming off of Natsume, it's interesting to note just how different the forests are in this show and in Natsume. The forests in Natsume are not bad looking, but they are rather flat in comparison. Not to say that they're like, oh, it's only one dimension of forest, but they're flat. This is still only a couple of layers of forest, and yet the way that the trees interlock with each other and the way that the light plays off of them and through them creates an immense feeling of depth in this space. It feels like an endless forest, a place where you could easily get lost, and maybe where you might want to. That's really neat, I think. The background art is generally just fantastic, and I assume it's just going to get better as we go along, which is crazy. We see this ceremony that we don't entirely understand and don't need to. We understand the vibe of it, and that's what matters. This is a show that conveys things through shots like this, instead of conveying them through characters speaking. That's different and really cool. There's a reason that people hail this as a legendary show of atmosphere, and the reason is becoming quite apparent to me as we go through it. It's because the people working on it know what they're doing. They know a lot about what they're doing, and it's really impressive. In a completely different way than, like, your high-end battle shonen is really impressive, or certain cuts out of those high-end battle shonens are really impressive, at least. Very different. And equally a different way than Kyoani's like top works are deeply impressive. Kyoani's top works are deeply impressive because of character animation, because of incredibly realistic when they want it to be background art, and because of the ability to convey character stories. This conveys a world, and that's different because those Kyoani shows are almost all set in our world, and so they're grounded in it. This is a different kind of grounded. We don't know anything about this world, right? At this point in the story, and I don't remember anything about this world. I don't know where technology is at. We could be in the 1800s technology level. We could be in the semi-modern day technology level. We could be 2,000 years ago. And I don't know. I just don't. There are no indicators of such. It's just a place. It's just the forest. It's just the house. The house is old, but old relative to what? No idea. Now, maybe if I knew more about Japanese architecture, I could look at the house and be like, oh, that was built in blah, 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 blah. But I don't. So it's just a world. And it doesn't matter when it is, because the story doesn't care when it is, because it's a different world than our world. That's really neat, too. Ooh. I don't understand the crow pulling this apart. I do think that the imagery of it falling apart into those previously seen, like, little triangle feet mushi is super cool. But I don't claim to understand it. We get this absolutely gorgeous shot. The thing that's gorgeous here is, of course, the lighting, this big beam of yellow with purple fringes that comes down here and illuminates her in the center. Wow, awesome. And we forego some of the depth creation in the lighting in order to create this vibe of the lighting. Realism in the lighting is powerful to an extent, and then we go into fiction for the lighting. And that's an important distinction, because if we just shoot every shot like it's lit the same way or like it's lit realistically, then we can't use light as a tool for expression. And we're willing to use light as a tool for expression. We're willing to use our backgrounds completely as a tool for expression instead of just as a tool for realism. That's very powerful and a big contributor to the creation of atmosphere, I think. I love the colors. The vibrant, almost neon pink in the bottom left corner, up to these like hazy yellows in the background, in like the top left. That's really cool. And away he goes. Time to leave. And he took the cup with him. So I don't know why he took the cup, but I think it indicates to us that Ginkgo is not, maybe not 100% altruistic, perhaps. He's not exactly here to solve this boy's problem. He'll do it happily, and maybe even it's part of why he's here, but he's also here for his own reasons. He's going to be a mysterious character as we go through. That's one thing that I barely remember, is that we don't understand that much about him. He's our point of view character to an extent. He's the one who sweeps into towns and changes things, or sweeps into single homes and changes things. He's our protagonist in that he acts, or I guess reacts, because often it's antagonists who create the action, but this isn't a show where there's an antagonist exactly. There might be in some episodes, but it's not. But we're left with maybe more questions than answers, even in an episode that dedicates probably 6 to 7 minutes of its runtime to pure exposition. And the parts that I would call exposition are everything that Ginkgo says about Mushi, exposition. Everything in the intro sequence that tells us about Mushi, exposition. Everything in the past sequence that shows us what she saw with Mushi, kind of exposition, 50-50. Everything in the previous past sequence where we see what the boy experienced when he was young tells us about Mushi as well, right? That's the exposition. It's not exposition on where Ginkgo is from and who he is and what he does. He just is a Mushishi, and he's here now. It's not exposition about who the grandmother was or who the boy is and what they did or what they're doing. It's just really focused, really hard focused on the Mushi themselves. And that's kind of neat. It's kind of neat. But it leaves us this open world of questions that we don't have a way to answer except by watching more of the show. And thus it makes us want to watch more of the show. Neato. Super neato. I dig it. I dig it. I also wanted to dig into this atmosphere stuff because it's something that we're going to come back to again and again as we go through the show. And so I wanted, in our first episode watching it, to try to break it down as much as possible. I'm no expert. I'm trying to grow into one is the point. So asking these questions like, what is it that creates that atmosphere that people praise so much about Mushishi, is an important question to me. And it's a core of how will I relate to this show in both the analytical sense and in the actual experiential sense. On that last note of experiential and analytical, this is going to be a difficult show to react to. Or not exactly. Reacting is not that hard. Discussing, that's fucking hard. This is going to be a difficult show to discuss because even here, in the first episode, I feel myself being pulled out of myself. I feel myself being pulled into the world. And that's a result of all of these things that we've talked about. The music, the animation, or not even the animation, the framing, the associations, the timing, the way everything's edited together, the generalistic flow. All of those things contribute to sucking me out of myself and into the world of the show and believing it. And the problem with believing in a show is that you're not sitting back away from it being analytical. So I'm going to have to try to strike an interesting balance between those two things and those two ways that I generally and naturally watch media. It's not exactly common that a show pulls me out of myself as quickly as this one has, and I think it's very impressive that it has done so. I am looking forward to losing myself in this one, but I'll also warn you that there are going to be some episodes here where I'm not going to be able to discuss much about them because I'm just going to be thinking as though they're real, because I can't view them as anything but real because they're just that well made. That's really cool. And I know that not from my previous experience with the show, but from just watching this first episode and how it's put together and how it affected me. This is a cool one. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. I'm going to wrap there for the day. I've said my piece about this episode and a bit more than that. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and the little discussion that we've done of it. And as always, I hope to catch you next week for more. If you'd like the next reaction a little bit early, it will be up on the Patreon. Generally, sometime the day that the episode goes up on YouTube, it'll be up the same day on Patreon. I do them in like a process. So check that out if you're interested, or if you want to get into the Discord and discuss things. There's a great community on the Discord, and they'll say hi to you and probably talk to you about Mushishi. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you next week for more. Peace.